started. So last week we were talking about Moses and his whole life, about how the Egyptians enslaved the Hebrews after Joseph went back to his family during the time of the famine, and the new Pharaoh didn't know who Joseph was. He had no context of who Joseph's God was, and he was afraid of the Israelites, their number, because they just kept doing what God told them to do. They were fruitful and multiplied, so there was lots of them. So the Egyptians subjugated the Hebrews under their rule as slaves, and they were forced into making bricks and all other kinds of things. And then Moses saw one of the Egyptians abusing one of the Hebrews. He knew he was a Hebrew. He became angry and killed that gentleman, and then subsequently found out that other people knew that he killed him, and he ran away to Midian, where he met the 7 daughters of Jethro at a well. And as I was doing the recap when I was listening to it, a lot of things happen by wells. I believe that we've already had a few different things that have happened by the wells. I know that something happened with Hagar by the well, and it was that the well was called like God who sees, or something like that. And we'll see lots of things happen at wells here. So here Moses meets the 7 daughters by the well and ensures that them and their flock get watered before all of the pushy shepherds that are trying to bring their flocks in. We also talked a little bit about God as comforter, that God is our comforter. And then that even though, so I was reading about Jethro, and even though the Midians weren't necessarily Israelites, and that will come into play today in today's study, they may have still known who God was, who Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh was, who the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were, because some of the rabbis say that Jethro was a priest of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, even though he was in a land that was not Israel. And then Moses sees the burning bush, and this is where God reveals himself as the great I am, the Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. So the I am who I will become, I am who I am who you say I am. Those are all different translations of who God revealed himself to Moses as on the mountain. So we stopped in Exodus 4 verse 18. So this is after God's conversation with Moses on the hill there, saying that it's time to return to Israel, and he laid out a whole plan on how he was going to, oh no, he didn't yet. This is coming up today. So we just spoke to Moses about who he was, and that he was to go back to Egypt to free God's people. So in 18, Moses went back home to Jethro, his father-in-law, saying, "Please let me return to my relatives in Egypt." Moses said, "I don't even know if they're still alive." And that's what we said last week. And Jethro said, "Go in peace," which is interesting that that he subjected himself to his father-in-law's authority. It says, I've been listening to a gentleman that speaks about honor a lot, and how a lot of cultures have moved away from teaching just the concept of honor. So Moses didn't necessarily owe anything to Jethro. He didn't have to ask him his permission to leave. He had married his daughter, and now they were a family, but still in the spirit of honor, he spoke with Jethro in order to make sure that it was okay for the household that he had now become a part of, that it was okay for him to go and do this thing that God commanded him to do. So it's just really, it shows something about Moses's character, that even though the God of all told him go do this thing, before going to do that, he checked in with his household to make sure that everything would be well when he goes to Egypt. So 19, before Moses left Midian, the Lord said to him, return to Egypt, for all those who wanted to kill you have died. So everybody that knew what Moses did, I guess, had died. So Moses took his wife and sons, put them on a donkey, and headed back to the land of Egypt. In his hand he carried the staff of God. Again, like God had him have the staff, and he said, you're going to throw the staff down, it's going to become a serpent, and all of these things. So thinking about Zipporah, who was raised in Midian for all that we know, and that her father was a prominent man in this place, and now she is to pack up her things with her husband and her young children. She has two children. They have two sons. They have Gershom, which was the first, and then Eleazar, which was the second. So pack up all of your things and go to this land that you've never been to. And then we don't know how much Moses revealed about his discussion on the mountain to his wife. And that's, yeah, I wrote down like about if it was pillow talk for Moses and Zipporah, about how God is working through all of these things. And at the end of the discussion God had with Moses, he said he's going to harden his heart, and he's not going to let the people go, that this is going to be a challenging situation for Moses, and yet Moses is still going. So verse 21, the Lord told Moses, when you arrive back to Egypt, go to Pharaoh and perform all the miracles that I have empowered you to do, but I will harden his heart, so he will refuse to let the people go. Then you will tell him, this is what the Lord says, Israel is my firstborn son. I commanded you, let my son go, so he can worship me, but since you have refused, I will now kill your firstborn son. So verse 24, on the way to Egypt, at a place where Moses and his family had stopped for the night, the Lord confronted him and was about to kill him. But, okay, so this is very, it's again, we talk about that there's so many mysteries there. So I'll just read the next verse too. But Moses, his wife Zipporah, took a flint knife and circumcised her son. She touched his feet, Moses's feet, with the foreskin of her son and said, now you are a bridegroom of blood to me. When she said a bridegroom of blood, she was referring to the circumcision. After that, the Lord left him alone. So this, yes. So as we remember from our previous studies, that was something that God commanded for all of the children of Israel, to be circumcised on the 8th day. That was something that was made very important and very clear to the Israelites, that must be done in order to maintain the covenant with God. And I don't really understand it too well. I know that there is power in blood, that it says in the Bible that the life is in the blood. So it's essentially a foreshadowing of the sacrifice that Christ made, that he gives his whole body for God and for us, so we can be in relationship. So it's a small sacrifice that the men of Israel are called to do in order to worship
Right.
God and to show that
That's
they're
a very
willing.
important part of the body for men.
Right.
So
Yes.
that is the sacrifice.
Yes. Yep. And then if we remember from the study of the men that were slaughtered after they were circumcised, like that, it's all very, very important. So it says son singular, and when we were looking into it, it was probably the firstborn son that was not. Oh yeah, we looked in Jasher. So in the book of Jasher, again, the extra canonical book that Jared was reading, it said that it was the firstborn son. In some of the research I did, it said that, oh no, this was in Jasher too, that the father-in-law, so what was his name now? I can't remember. I just said his name. So anyways, the father, Jethro, told Moses to not circumcise the child because they thought, the Midians thought, that it was barbaric, and his wife Zipporah probably thought it was a barbaric custom as well, because it's so outside the scope of why would you do that? Why would you ever do that? And again, without recognizing the covenant relationship that they had with God, of course they would think that it was a strange and barbaric thing. Also, when I was doing the studies, some of them said that the angel of the Lord came and incapacitated Moses. So he was not able to perform this circumcision, which they're supposed to do. The men are supposed to do this to the boys again on the 8th day. And as we know now in science, we can see that on the 8th day, there's an extra enzyme there that helps the blood clot and helps with pain and all of those things. So some of the studies that I was reading said that she was bitter about it and that she didn't want to do this thing and did it even though she was mad about it. But I don't know, maybe not. Maybe she just agreed with her father, like, yeah, this is a barbaric custom. But then as she saw the power of God working on Moses in whatever way this was, she, took authority and did the thing that should have been done initially, and then bonded herself to her husband with this blood, now recognizing that now they're all in covenant with the Lord. So, verse 26, when she said a bridegroom of blood, she was referring to the circumcision. After that, the Lord left him alone. 27, now the Lord had said to Aaron, which this is the first time we've heard about Aaron, go into the wilderness and meet Moses. So Aaron went and met Moses at the mountain of God and embraced him. Aaron is the blood brother of Moses. So Moses's mother and father back in Egypt continued to have children, and Aaron is the younger brother of Moses. So God directed Aaron to come meet Moses, and Moses told Aaron everything the Lord had commanded him to say. And he told about the miraculous signs that the Lord had commanded him to perform. And then Moses and Aaron returned to Egypt and called all the elders of Israel together. Aaron told them everything the Lord had told Moses, and Moses performed the miraculous signs as they watched. Then the people of Israel were convinced that the Lord had sent Moses and Aaron. When they heard that the Lord was concerned about them and had seen their misery, they bowed down and worshipped. So these Israelites were calling out for deliverance from the Egyptians. They were not good masters, and the last time Moses was there, remembering again, this is 40 years, so there's a 40-year span in between the time he left and the time that he's now returning. And Aaron is actually a priest in the Hebrew culture there. So he's one of the elders also. And Moses was, when he was on the mountain, he was saying that, again, he had a stutter. How is he going to speak to people? And that's when God said, I will have your brother Aaron speak to the people. And before that, I don't believe that Moses would have even known that he had, I think it actually mentioned that he wasn't sure if any of the people that he grew up with were still even alive. And so this is Exodus 5 verse 1. After this presentation to Israel's leaders, Moses and Aaron went and spoke to Pharaoh. They told him, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says: Let my people go, so they may hold a festival in my honor in the wilderness." So the people, again, the Israelites, they're supposed to be released to go and worship God in the wilderness. And Pharaoh says, "Is that so? And who is the Lord? Why should I listen to him and let Israel go? I don't know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go." But Aaron and Moses persisted. "The God of the Hebrews has met with us," they declared. "So let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness so we can offer our sacrifices to the Lord our God. If we don't, he will kill us with a plague or with the sword." Pharaoh replied, "Moses and Aaron, why are you distracting the people from their tasks? Get back to work. Look, there are many of your people in the land, and you are stopping them from their work." That same day, Pharaoh sent his order to the Egyptian slave drivers and the Egyptian foremen, "Do not supply any more straw for making bricks. Make the people get it themselves, but still require them to make the same number of bricks as before. Don't reduce the quota. They are lazy. That's why they are crying out, 'Let us go offer our sacrifices.' Load them down with more work. Make them sweat. This will teach them to listen to lies." So the slave drivers and the foremen went out and told the people, "This is what Pharaoh says: I will not provide any more straw for you. Go and get it yourselves. Find it wherever you can, but you must produce the same amount of bricks as before." So the people scattered throughout the land of Egypt in search of stubble to use as straw. Meanwhile, the Egyptian slave drivers continued to push hard. "Meet your daily quota of bricks, just as you did when we provided the straw," they demanded. Then they whipped the Israelite foremen they had put in charge of the work crews. "Why haven't you met your quotas either yesterday or today?" they demanded. So the Israelite foremen went to Pharaoh and pleaded with him, "Please don't treat your servants like this," they begged. "We are given no straw, but the slave drivers still demand make bricks. We are being beaten, but it isn't our fault. Your own people are to blame." But Pharaoh shouted, "You're just lazy. Lazy. That's why you're saying, 'Let us go and offer sacrifices to the Lord.' Now get back to work. No straw will be given to you, but you must produce the full quota of bricks." The Israelite foremen could see that they were in serious trouble when they were told, "You must not reduce the number of bricks each day." As they left Pharaoh's court, they confronted Moses and Aaron, who were waiting outside for them. The foreman said to them, "May the Lord judge and punish you for making us stink before Pharaoh and his officials. You have put a sword in their hands and an excuse to kill us." So Moses came back and did this whole thing in front of, he spoke about all of the miracles and probably performed some of the miracles in front of the Israelite leaders. And again, this is a foreman, so he's in charge of the slaves. So and he's an Israelite, and he's now blaming Moses instead of remembering that God is the one that provides, that all of the things that Moses came and was speaking about who God is and what God's going to do, and they were all very excited about it, and they all wanted to go meet with Pharaoh. But then as soon as Pharaoh got a stick in his craw because they're going to worship someone other than him, they want to go out and make sacrifices to someone other than him, now he is putting extra weight on the Israelites to make them make more bricks, or as many bricks with less resources. So that's what happens when people in authority that are actually children in adult bodies get challenged by someone, their authority gets challenged, then this is the kind of thing that happens. And sometimes just remembering that the moment before that release, that I keep thinking revelry. I don't know if that's the right word to say, but just that breaking forth of like a seed that comes forth from the ground. It's usually a little tumultuous before the great thing happens. It's usually, I was just got a vision of water boiling, that the water molecules have to move really fast before they change into the new thing. So that's what's going on here with the Israelites. So verse 22, Moses went back to the Lord and protested, "Why have you brought all this trouble on your own people, Lord? Why did you send me? Ever since I came to Pharaoh as your spokesman, he has been even more brutal to your people, and you have done nothing to rescue them." So I got a while back, I mean, God's been talking to me about it a lot, that we don't understand pain. Again, it's that crushing and that pressing, and God uses pain for his great purpose. And I know we spoke about the I know his first name is George, that the painter George, and it starts with an S. It's like Chouin or something very French. Jorge, George. So he paints with those dots, and again, so pain is one of those dots that I would look at and say that's ugly. But God, in his infinite wisdom, can back off and see how to use that ugly for something beautiful. So that's what he's doing here. So in Exodus 6, verse 1, the Lord answers Moses, "Now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. When he feels the force of my strong hand, he will let the people go. In fact, he will force them to leave his land." So God is using the pain of the Israelites, I believe, to give Pharaoh a chance to soften his own heart, right? Because God only hardens Pharaoh's heart because Pharaoh's heart is first hardened. So it says, God hardens Pharaoh's heart, but if Pharaoh's heart was soft to begin with, God wouldn't have done that, right? Because he is, "I am what you say I am." So if my heart is hard, God will multiply that which I have said. So God says to Moses, "I am Yahweh the Lord. I am," again, Ehir, Asher, Ehir. "I am who I say I am. I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob as El Shaddai," again, God Almighty, the Comforter. "But I did not reveal my name, Yahweh, to them, and I reaffirmed my covenant with them. Under its terms, I promised to give the land of Canaan where they were living as foreigners. You can be sure that I have heard the groans of the people of Israel who are now slaves to the Egyptians, and I'm well aware of my covenant with them. Therefore, say to the people of Israel, I am the Lord. I will free you from your oppression and will rescue you from your slavery in Egypt. I will redeem you with a powerful arm and great acts of judgment. I will claim you as my own people, and I will be your God. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God who has freed you from the oppression of Egypt. I will bring you into the land I swore to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I will give it to you as your very own possession. I am the Lord." So Moses told the people of Israel what the Lord had said, but they refused to listen anymore. They had become discouraged by the brutality of their slavery. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go back to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and tell him to let the people of Israel leave his country." "But Lord," Moses objected, "my own people won't listen to me anymore. How can I expect Pharaoh to listen? I am such a clumsy speaker." So, as we often do, Moses was looking at his own shortcomings instead of the greatness of God. "I can't do this." Well, of course you can't do it, Moses, but God is going to do it through you if you just allow him to do it. So that's what's going on here. So the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron and gave them orders for the Israelites and for Pharaoh. the king of Egypt. The Lord commanded Moses and Aaron to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt. And then it goes through a bunch of the ancestors, which again, it's one of those mysteries where if I went through and peeled apart all of the meanings of each of the names, it will tell a whole story. But we're not doing that because this is not a mystery Bible study. It's a woman's Bible study. So remembering our women that came here, Zipporah, I think we're going to stop there and then we'll pick up where it picks back up next time. But Zipporah took her 2 young sons, one of which was circumcised on the road on the way from Midian to Egypt. So she's bringing both of her 2 sons and all of her probably slaves and things to this land, and not knowing any of what's going on here, just knowing that Moses's people are trapped there. It says that Midian is a couple of weeks by foot from Egypt. So she's traveling with her 2 young boys, and now they come here, and Moses is all jazzed up about, you know, going to Pharaoh and saying all of these things, and then just seeing, and she's probably fellowshipping with the other Hebrew women that are there in captivity, and watching these things play out, that now the slaves, the Hebrew men that were slaves, and maybe some women as well, I'm not sure, were caused to make just as many bricks with no straw. And just, it's just telling all these small stories, just tell the big story of how great God is and how he does things in the face of impossibility, like things that anybody, how can this stuttering guy come into this great land of Egypt and free the Pharaoh's slaves? That just seems unreasonable and impossible, but that's who God is. So that's where we'll
Right.
stop.